what makes a skylight, and how can we bring daylight and fresh air to where people live, work, and play.
You know, anybody could come in and say that we manufacture and sell and distribute skylights, but you didn't say it that way. You said that you sell daylight. And I think a little bit ago, you said that you sell fresh air on top of all of that, which I absolutely love.
It's worth it to take advantage of the fifth wall, your roof.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Rebuilt. And on this episode, I'm joined with another star-studded, sterling member of the building products industry. I'm joined by Michael Schwartz of VELUX, who VELUX itself has certainly just concreted themselves as the authority in skylights. And I'm just learning here today as we were prepping that there's also terminology out there called a roof window. And I'm super excited to get into that distinction and how that improves the homeowner experience. And I think that Michael definitely shares a lot of kind of philosophical beliefs that I share. And I know that this is going to be an amazing conversation. So Michael, thank you so much for making the journey to come up here, be a part of the Rebuilt show. It's an original series by Bealing Roofing. We've been working collaboratively with VELUX now for a number of years. So to have you here is flattering. And I just want to make sure that from me and from everyone else around the office there and the Bealing family that we thank you and everyone else at VELUX for participating in this. I know that you're about to deliver some exceptional value to the listeners. So thank you for being here. I can't wait to get into the meat and potatoes of it.
It's a real privilege to be here, especially with Bealing, because I've known many of the Bealing team members for a quarter century. It's a great partnership. And the key here is that we are able to share information on what makes a skylight, and how can we bring daylight and fresh air to where people live, work, and play in a watertight way.
I love that. Man, so I think maybe you missed your calling. Maybe you should have been in-home sales with me, and because you pretty much primarily live on the business-to-business side, I take it.
We at VELUX we are homeowner-centric. We believe in meeting and making sure we know the thoughts of the homeowners. You're going to hear one of our decisions that was made last year that was really centered around the homeowner. Oftentimes my job is to get out with somebody such as Bealing and to go visit the homeowner so they can make the best decision regarding their roof. A skylight's just a small part of the roof, but it's still an important part of that decision-making process. So homeowner, we're thinking about them all the time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So just the fact that you framed it that way, that anybody could come in and say that, we manufacture and sell and distribute skylights, but you didn't say it that way. You said that you sell daylight. And I think a little bit ago, you said that you sell fresh air on top of all of that, which I absolutely love. Like that is an emotional way of positioning what VELUX does. And I wouldn't say the problem that they solve for, but the experience that they provide. So I love that about you, that we're thinking in those sort of limbic ways. So this is absolutely going to be an awesome conversation. So for you, Michael, so there's a little bit of background. I know that you've been with VELUX for a respectable amount of time, but why don't you share with those listening and watching how long you've been with VELUX, how you got in, and then ultimately what keeps you coming back in this career?
So I was a teacher. So I got out of college and I was a teacher for 6 years. And then the president of VELUX, I was teaching his kids, came into the class and he asked me to join the customer service team. And I enjoyed it. I took advantage of that. And then about a couple years later, I decided to come back to central Pennsylvania because VELUX is out of South Carolina. So we're out of South Carolina, and I decided to come back to central Pennsylvania, beautiful spot, my roots. And it's been almost 32 years that I've been working with VELUX. I could say VELUX. It's Latin. So I don't know how often you use Latin phrases on this show, but VELUX is Latin, and it means air and light. So when I say I sell VELUX, I sell air and light. That is something we called ourselves back almost 85 years ago. We started over in Denmark. Our founder, Mr. Rasmussen, he was an architect engineer. World War II is going on, a lot of destruction, a lot of buildings being destroyed, and they had to find some living spaces. Attics were one of the solutions. And there's only a couple ways you can really light an attic: a dormer, an end window, or a roof window. And at that time, you'd have people on-site glazing. So they'd take out the materials and they'd build it on-site. Well, manufacturing is much more efficient. And our founder, kind of a genius, said, I'm going to go ahead and start this company. And today, VELUX, in over 42 countries around the world, is the largest manufacturer of roof windows and skylights. I mean, it's a little small niche in the building industry, but happy to be part of this rebuild discussion.
Oh my gosh, that's impressive. I wish we had a full on-set audience to give that a massive round of applause. That is quite an accomplishment, and the accolades that you've acquired over the years and accrued over the years as a top tier and high-end manufacturer of skylights and roof windows. Tip of the hat to you and to everyone else around the organization. That's quite an impressive resume. So kudos for sure. So again, just the fact that you're here as such an established and decorated company, it's an honor. So interesting though. So you said over in Denmark, got started during World War II, and then so when did VELUX really kind of make their presence or start making their presence known in the United States?
Well, we could joke and say sales went through the roof and quickly began to grow. And in the late 50s, our founder came over to the U.S. to take a look around, but he stayed busy enough that he put that idea off and then came back again. In 75 is when VELUX started. So last year we celebrated our 50th anniversary. Started selling mainly products that were brought over. And then he ended up in Greenwood, South Carolina, a small town, and saw the advantages of manufacturing and building in the USA. So not having to ship the products over, but building a product here in the USA and making sure it's designed for American homes. A little different, maybe sometimes out of reach versus in reach. Still, we do them both, but I know we had talked about the word roof window, which I really like that term, but officially it's one that's in reach and can flip around for cleaning. Whereas many homeowners, your customers and mine, are putting skylights out of reach, up in higher ceilings and in tunnels and wells, and so those would be skylights.
Interesting. So just to drill down on that is an important distinction. And again, before we pressed record for this episode, I wasn't even aware that there was such a thing as a roof window versus a skylight. I would have just classified them all as skylights, likely because of the branding that, Skylight, we look at VELUX here, it says Skylight System. So just to back up, roof window it's an installation and an application to where it is within my physical reach, right, and the window itself can be turned inside out, very much like modern double hung windows these days that tip in and you can clean the outside from the inside. So that is the distinction between a skylight and a roof window. Exactly.
Now, my thought here, rebuild, the idea, if somebody's looking to build an area, to construct an area in their home where they could have a room in the roof, which is really the best view in the house. It's up under the roof. That would be an attic or a loft or a bonus room, the room above the garage. That's a great spot for a roof window or a skylight. And that's kind of how we got our start.
I love it. I'm already thinking through, like, how can I completely remodel my home to have roof windows? Because I do, honestly, I love skylights. I know that for lots of homeowners, those that are listening, sometimes skylights can be the absolute bane of the roof. And I think that we'll delve into, the importance of the proper material. So window versus skylight, and then also the very delicate installation process that needs to be considered, making sure you're using the right product, it's installed correctly. But, we do find that, a big source of our calls in our repair program and in our restoration program is skylights are really kind of centered around that. So some that are watching may have a bias that by the end of this episode we'll transform that and we'll flip that, and everybody that kind of came into this thinking that
I think it's important.
Yeah,
I really do. So I said I've been doing this quite a while, and I have heard thousands of times, why cut a hole in a perfectly good roof? And I think this discussion between us, I like to use a prop, and it's very quick. It's just simply this, a window. The most important feature is a piece of glass. So you have a piece of glass, which is fine. That's a window. But when you have a roof window or a skylight, it's sloped glazing, and all of a sudden you're turning that glass towards the source of light, the sun. And that brings in twice, 3 times, 4 times when you go to lower pitches, more light than your vertical window. So if people are phototropic, if they appreciate gravitating towards daylight, which I think most people do, you can't beat a skylight for lighting that space. Because at the same time, not only are you getting 2 or 3 times the amount of light, but if we take a look in almost any room designed in the last 100 years, the lights are on the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Because 100 years ago, they figured out light spreads in a cylindrical manner, kind of like a funnel. And you don't get that from a vertical window, but you get it from a skylight. So the light spreads across the room in a much more effective way. So the idea is, why cut a hole in a perfectly good roof? The number one reason is for better natural light.
Excellent. Yeah, I love it. Again, like I said, there's nothing better when you do enter a room that has skylights in it. The bright nature of it, right? It's I don't know, it just makes you feel different than when you come into a room that we always joke about. Some of these older homes, like 60s, 70s, we call them lamp houses, right? Like you have to have a lamp in every corner. There's not even lights in the ceiling. So all the receptacles are tied to the switch. And so they were built as lamp houses, and they're dark. And the home that I live in, oh my gosh, it's so dark, right? Because they didn't have that in mind when they were building that. But, homes can be retrofit with, this amazing glass, like you said, that's oriented to allow for that refraction and brighten up at really any space.
I was going to say, what's great is, you mentioned it. We kind of have a genetic code for us to head towards that sun. And, people have tried to design light fixtures and lights to mimic that, but they can't quite match the spectrums and also the changing natural light that occurs throughout the day or throughout the seasons, which is important to us. It gives us a guide. That's why people want to have windows, or in our case, skylights. It connects you with nature.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love it. And again, how you kick this whole thing off is that, VELUX doesn't sell skylights, right? And anybody that's ever heard of the brand name VELUX, it's easy to figure out what you do, but it's quite obvious that you're very centered in why you do it, and what the whole purpose there is to provide fresh air and to provide that daylight through all 4 seasons. So I know the home that I live in, it's a dark house. It was built in 1967-ish, something in that time frame. And my wife and we joke, and I know it's a term that we've heard from others in construction over the years, but we call it a lamp house. There's no overhead lighting in any room, so all of the rooms they're closed off. There's only vertical windows, because now we have this new terminology, roof window. So we only have windows that are mounted vertically, so we don't get the great light distribution that would come from a skylight or a roof window. And there's no artificial light built into any of the ceilings, so we have to retrofit the home to have a skylight, to have artificial lighting built in, but even if we build that artificial light into the ceiling with recessed lighting and things of that nature, and I know we had at some point we had discussed that there are manufacturers out there that build artificial lighting to mimic real lighting. There's just nothing that takes the place of actual daylight. And one of the things that you had mentioned too is that VELUX is known for not only selling daylight, but for selling fresh air. So I want to jump into that, but I also just want to make sure too, because I know that there's definitely folks that'll listen to this, contractors and homeowners alike that have some bias around the big penetration that a skylight represents in the window. So I want to make sure too that we're careful about and that we're cognizant and considerate of that in terms of if you've had a negative experience with a skylight, how, by the end of this conversation that hopefully we can change that narrative and then make you a skylight believer. So what do you say to folks that are, entertaining a skylight, but maybe haven't had the best experience with skylights in the past? Like, how would you transform that thought process there on skylights?
Well, the first thing is I'd let them know that I have 10 skylights in my own house. So I know, and I installed them all. And I know very well that when you put in a VELUX, and we call it a no leak, we're not afraid to call that term. We call it a no leak skylight, and it's based on layers, redundancy, just like most roofers understand layers when it comes to shingles. It's really 3 layers of water protection at the rough opening, and then one very important protection at the glass. So this is something that we do every day, and I can explain a little bit how that works, if that's okay.
Sure.
The very first thing is that the VELUX skylight has a flange, and it's a heavy gauge galvalume flange, and it's got a neoprene gasket on it, and that is the first layer of protection, and that goes down on the decking. This came out in 2010. So it has 16 years of experience. Then, very important redundancy, the second layer is an adhesive membrane, something similar to an ice and water shield, a weather wrap that goes from the decking, the plywood decking, the roof, up the side of the skylight. So, and you're grabbing the wood there. And what that means is now you have 2 layers of water tightness. But very important, you continue to add on to that. The third layer is the VELUX flashing kit. And very important because that is a proven method for hundreds of years. Every time someone sees a chimney or a dormer or a wall up a roof, that's what they do, step flashing. And it's a very good system. It's a watertight system. And then on the glass, very impressive, because I'm a service guy also for the last 32 years. If there's an issue, I go out there. And the idea is there was an Instaglaze developed by a manufacturer of sealants and silicones, very well-known, nationally well-known, and they provided this for us. And we found this product to be so effective at grabbing the glass that you can't take it apart anymore. So once that seals and cures, it was able to get down to 0 degrees flat on some of our products. So putting all those together, our product has been amazing. And I see it. I'm in the skylight business and I see it every day. I'm very proud of it. And that's why it's worth it to take advantage of the 5th wall, your roof, to gain all those benefits of natural light and ventilation that we're going to talk a little bit more about, some of the cool technology involved, but it really is. And then we provide the no leak warranty, meaning VELUX is saying for 10 years, we will provide up to $1,000 to cover any damages, the drywall, the paint, the roofing, and that's above and beyond the replacement or the repair of the skylight. It's a pretty bold promise when you're relying on other different shingles and other different roof materials and people that aren't part of VELUX. That's why it's so important to have a relationship with a quality installer such as Bealing that we know they're going to do it right.
So perfectly and eloquently stated that even if it doesn't matter what materials you're using, if they're not installed correctly and if it's not the right product for the job or for the application, then it doesn't matter, right? It's not going to perform as advertised. So we know that lots of engineering thought and intention has gone into these products, so that way when you do cut this seemingly massive hole in the roof that does provide all of that daylight and fresh air, like we'll jump into, that it's not going to become, the bane of the roof, right? And in fact, it would become the centerpiece of the home.
Exactly. And just for everyone out there, we try to not use the word hole. We call it an opening because it's an opportunity. It really is.
Yeah. And that's very much on brand with everything that you've already stated. So if you ever are looking for a place to, just kind of finish things out, like we would love to have you. I love the way that you state things. Thanks. It's very, very limbic. I love it. So we've mentioned a couple of times about fresh air, and I don't want to confuse fresh air because I shout from the mountaintops about ventilation and how important it is to have that fresh air exchange in the attic. We had Lamanco Vents on for a previous episode.
I know Jim.
It's a massive thought leader in the ventilation space. So, but what we're talking about here with VELUX, when we talk about fresh air here, we're not just talking about a skylight that gives you the opportunity to enhance a space with daylight, but also too these things open and close. And I know that doesn't necessarily do it justice the way. So I'll let you dive into that. But how do we get fresh air then into the fifth wall, as you stated?
If you don't mind, remember I mentioned earlier I was a teacher. I was a history teacher, and so I'll just bring a little history in here. The very first thing is VELUX. When we first started back in 41, up until 1982, the only roof windows we made were ones that opened. It wasn't till 82 that we started making fixed or stationary skylights. So that's part of our product. We have a strong background there. And then to go into a little more history, our fellow Pennsylvanian, Ben Franklin, 250 years ago, he wrote down in his diary as he was traveling about windows. I think he was in a stuffy room. It was summertime, and he wrote down in the diary, the best windows are upper placed, high placed windows because the airflow goes up. And then he also said, you need to put a lower placed window or door down low, and it creates what they call the stack effect. And it's a great way to create a pleasant little breeze in the house. But the idea is, so many homes today are very tight, and people aren't taking advantage of natural airflow. We mentioned the homeowners, I often will ask them, do you like fresh air? Because the question is, do you ever open up your windows? I mean, they're going to say, oh yeah, I like fresh, but do they ever open up their windows? And if they do, there's no better investment than to put a window on the roof and to utilize it, especially ones that are automatic. It's very important. I mean, Bealing knows the value of airflow because you're selling and installing airflow every day in every roof.
Right. Yeah. So speaking to that, and just to drill down on it a bit, you had mentioned there's the important piece there, the automatic portion. So, as we picture, these skylights here in your marketing materials, most skylights that we see now they have a shade in them, right? So that gives you the ability to, restrict daylight when you don't want it, right? Because there could be times where the skylight may be a bit too intense, maybe for someone that works 3 shifts like I used to, and I need to darken the room. So they have that ability, but then they also have the ability to bring in the fresh air. And you mentioned that it's automatic. So are you suggesting that not only the room darkening can be done automatically, but also the opening and closing of the windows? Is that also part of maybe like an automatic or an autonomous feature of these?
Automation is so important. I often will use garage doors as the example. I can't remember the last time I saw a manual garage door installed. I mean, everybody has it, and now whether it's the dishwasher, whether it's the heating, cooling system, automation is throughout the house. And so the same time when we came out with fixed skylights, we also came out with automatic skylights. We make the motors. We make the motors that go on the skylight or that are part of the skylight. And the beauty of it is you could simply get a little up-down remote control that most people put on the wall. But even better is when they use the app and are able to create schedulings that not only will open and close the skylight depending on the indoor and outdoor conditions that you set, but also the weather app on the phone will close the shades if it's too hot, or open the window. I've burned like I said, I have it at my house. I burned the bacon not that long ago. It's right in my kitchen, and the window automatically opened. If it had been 15 degrees outside, it wouldn't have opened. But this is about comfort and the best type of indoor conditions for the homeowner. And it's all there, and it's not new. That app and these automations, that simple system is 8.5 years old that I've had. 8.5 years.
That's quite some time, and that's actually inspiring, and well, it inspires confidence because it's been tested, and it's been utilized in homes across America for almost a decade now. So certainly something that I learned. I wasn't totally aware of that capability, but it makes perfect sense. We think about scheduling of different lighting, whether it be interior lighting or exterior lighting. Folks have been using that sort of automation technology for the aesthetic appearance of the home and the lighting, right? Lights come on in the evening, they turn off when it's daylight. So now to be able to automate the windows in your home, specifically the skylights or the roof windows that we're talking about, I think really just gives the homeowner another layer and another level of experience of just being able to enjoy their own home. And, I can't think of a better time to do a project like this than when you're building the home from new. But there's also plenty of opportunities. Like, we represent a retail roof replacement company. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do. And that is also a perfect opportunity to add a skylight that isn't yet there. In your line of work, how often would you say that, like, maybe what's the difference, right? Does VELUX happen to live more on the new construction side, or is it more equal than that to where it's being part of the remodel process and the rebuilt process? Where do you kind of see that your product falls most, new construction or remodel?
Well, that's a great question. The idea is this. I mentioned about daylight and the importance of that daylight to homes. And architecture always has trends. We've seen fewer roof windows and skylights put into houses. I think some people fear the leakage, and they're using lots more windows. And the problem with that is what I had shared earlier about it's a different type of light. You're not quite getting all that light. And then all of a sudden you've got design issues because let's say you put the big window in your master bath or bathroom. Hey, all of a sudden you've got a privacy issue, and now you're putting a shade on it, and you're losing the light, and you're using the view. Skylight would have been even better because there's nothing better than strong natural light. Remember, 2 to 3 times the amount of light hitting off those walls and killing mold and mildew, or opening up the skylight after a shower, during the shower, and allowing for that moisture to get out. Or if we're talking about a kitchen, there's a battle for wall space when it comes to a kitchen. And you've got the microwave, you've got the refrigerator, you've got the stove, and you got lots of cabinets. And so where am I going to put my windows? Because that's a little battle going on. When you would introduce a skylight, now all of a sudden you've got that nice light shining on the best counter in the home, and then you've got the ability to open it up if you when you're cooking or just sitting in the kitchen. And we could go on and on, but sure. I'll tell you one that's really nice for Bealing would be people that have a porch or addition or a sunroom that they put on, and they didn't realize that when that roof goes on, it blocks the light to the core of the house. And your guys and your team could come in and put a couple skylights in that space and flood that area with natural light and lend it back into the core. Anybody that is looking to improve their interior space, that's one of them. We haven't brought up one product that you all do quite often, which is the sun tunnel. It's a tubular skylight that is able, without framing, without any drywall work, and without any painting, to introduce the gift of daylight in an unexpected area, like a hallway or the stairs, or maybe it's a bathroom with no windows. It's a cool product that you all offer in addition to all the excellent exterior work you do.
Right. And it's again, just another testament to the diversity in manufacturing that Skylight brings to, or VELUX brings to the table, that extends beyond just skylights. And VELUX doesn't sell skylights; they sell daylight and fresh air. And yes, you're right. I have personally become a massive fan of the sun tunnels for their ease of use and application in existing construction. So in a remodel situation, it is super easy to insert, say in my own case, in a super dark hallway, right? In a very dark bathroom, to drop 2 of these sun tunnels in and provide light that didn't exist otherwise, especially when the bedroom doors are shut. I mean, it's like
it's a transformation.
It's like a tunnel to the Batcave. I mean, it's terrible. So yes, and that is a very low. What would I say? That's it creates very little work. It's a low scope of work to be able to put that sunlight in that otherwise didn't exist with the sun tunnel. Thus, again, just reinforcing the entire brand philosophy here is to provide homeowners with sunlight in areas that it didn't otherwise exist. And it doesn't just have to be done with a traditional skylight. It can be done with a sun tunnel. So so I'm a huge fan of that. I want to step back too, though, and just make sure that we reinforce a critical point that you made. So we know, as well as you, there are folks that they've had negative experiences in the past. And you had mentioned that, installation, it goes a long way, right? So the skylights themselves are manufactured to be the no leak window, right? It's a no leak skylight. So it's built to perform. And then you make the bold statements and the bold claims that we're going to back it up and even give you money to repair if there is a failure. Now, you had mentioned that there's people installing these products that they're not VELUX representatives, right? They're Bealing roofings and other roofers and other home improvement contractors. So there's a lot that has to go into manufacturing to make sure that you're eliminating a lot of that guesswork. And we like to say, try to make things as idiot proof as possible, right? But then you also offer another layer of protection for homeowners to where you are training your contractors like us to become certified and make sure that we are upholding your standard level of installation. So that way there are no headaches and it's just pleasant experiences. Can you talk a little bit about that certification program, who qualifies for that, and why a homeowner would even care if, a Bealing Roofing or whoever is in their neighborhood, like why would they care about certified installers?
Only a small fraction of the roofers nationwide have achieved certification with VELUX. It is important, and if a company is out to be the best company possible, and make sure that they are making sure that the homeowner is getting the right installation in all their products, including the skylights, then they should go ahead and get certified, like Bealing did. One of the real privileges of this area is VELUX, who's an international company in Rockville, Maryland, so just over an hour away, Montgomery County, Maryland. We opened up our VELUX Academy, and it's a space it's a training facility that has skylights installed in the roof and throughout the building, and there's also some stadium seating there, and it gives the professional contractor, a chance to get a degree in skylights, because that's what it requires. They want to be the best they can be, and VELUX took on the responsibility to say, we're going to train these contractors to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident in putting in our product, which then goes back to the homeowner. I'll tell you, if you don't mind me sharing one thing that I think is very important, that I'm going to give you guys kudos, is the process, the way that when you sell a roof, you emphasize always to the customer, it's a roof system, and the skylight is part of that system. We say a skylight system is part of the roof system, and it's so important that it's discussed and highly urged and recommended that the skylight be replaced when you're doing a roof replacement, because that skylight has a life expectancy just like the shingle. And to put on a 40-year roof and expect a skylight that's already been around for decades and decades, to last, it doesn't make sense. We've talked about how it's not really logical. And now it's going to cost more if they have an issue. And then they're not getting a warranty on that old Skylight. I know that's important. And energy efficiency is extremely important. That's old technology. They're not getting all the low E. And plus, they're not getting the automatic solar shade that comes now with every Skylight. And we put that shade in because we had lots of research with homeowners, and we saw, just like just about everybody has blinds or drapes or shades or curtains in their homes on their windows, a Skylight that's providing 2 to 3 times the light, you want to control that light for light control and energy efficiency.
Right.
But anyway, that's something that I'm glad you all do, is to recommend that Skylights always be replaced so that the homeowner can have peace of mind for the next 40 years.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up without me prompting you, because it certainly is a question that we face as in-home representatives, that we really do take the education angle of home improvement. And, it's not just a roof and, we're going to tear shingles off and put new shingles down. And, there's certainly contractors out there that's their game, right? And they're just trying to make the bottom line attractive. And in a lot of cases where Skylights exist, they don't get replaced because either A, that contractor is, either lacks the qualification and experience to remove and replace that unit. They're afraid of the price increase that it would be associated with changing the Skylight. So they make homeowners believe that it's okay to just leave the Skylight there. But you just made the important distinction that the Skylight itself has a shelf life. And now for everyone listening, I guess maybe, of course you would say that, right? Because VELUX exists to sell their product, but I want to be careful here and make sure that for everyone watching and listening, that it's not because VELUX is trying to, inject more sales into the brand. It's to make sure that we maintain that level of peace of mind. So just like we never recommend reusing the flashing on the sidewall. So we always address the flashing. We always remove and replace the Skylights because we know that that's a vulnerable spot. It has served its duty. And when the roof comes off, the Skylight goes with it and a new system goes in place, roof and windows all together, working in harmony and not trying to elongate the life cycle of a product that has already served its lifespan. So that is where you can build the promise in that, generally speaking, this is where people have a negative experience with Skylights. It's got a new roof on it. Now the Skylight is seeing roof number 2. It's become problematic. We've disturbed it. It's not the original or intentional or the intention that VELUX had for that unit. And that's where I think people really do get that negative bias around Skylights. So you said it perfectly.
If that contractor decided to leave and didn't recommend replacing the Skylight, then I wonder what other things on their quote, on their work, are they leaving off? Because that's a simple idea that should be done to make sure that there's no issues, as I said, for the next decades and decades and decades.
Yeah. So when we had the gentleman from Lifetime Tool on, and they had a pretty refined data point, and they said, in any roof, there's an average of 3.2 pipes that come up through the roof. In the VELUX camp, do we know across America about the average home, how many Skylights are represented?
It is 3 in 10 houses would have Skylights.
Wow. So 30% of all homes in the United States have Skylights built into them.
Right.
That's amazing.
Single family homes.
Single family homes.
Single family homes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So that's a testament to Skylight manufacturers like yourself. Obviously VELUX is the front runner. And I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that VELUX is the only national brand of Skylights. I think that there are some other Skylight companies that are a bit smaller and more regional focused, but not only is VELUX national in terms of the United States, but also international, coming from Denmark. As you said, it's a Danish company. So, but VELUX, correct me if I'm wrong, VELUX is the only national, or arguably the only national Skylight brand in America.
Yeah, and I don't always talk about competition. We know there's other manufacturers that can make Skylights. We think we exceed and achieve the best results of any of the Skylight manufacturers. So hopefully, if anybody has questions on it, they can get with us, you and I, and we can share with them why VELUX is the leader.
Right, regardless of where you're at in the U.S. So to kind of wrap up that thought then too. So VELUX is an international company. However, you mentioned that there is you have a foothold in Rockville. There's a training facility there, and then you had mentioned South Carolina earlier. That I believe manufacturing is taking place in South Carolina. So is there enough manufacturing that's taking place there that VELUX can comfortably consider their products to be American made?
We are absolutely American made. Yeah. I would put it at 90+% of our products that we offer are coming out of the USA, are designed and made in the USA. I can say that, we're in Hanover locally, you and I, right now. Within, an hour and a half, we have 2 VELUX facilities, not just the training academy, but the warehouse for the Mid-Atlantic is right down in north of Baltimore. And so if somebody needs a product, you're doing a roof, and all of a sudden you realize we'd like to put a couple sun tunnels in. That facility is just over an hour away that you can grab those. So it's not too late. You can get that product very easily. We're lucky to have it. We're fortunate to have it so close.
Yeah, excellent. And we've certainly benefited from just the proximity to those locations, because there have been times where we were in a bind and we needed a product, and we were able to get it. So, for contractors that are listening, and for homeowners too that are just genuinely curious about the process, having a contact like yourself too is extremely beneficial for someone like us, because occasionally there are challenging builds that we are a part of where the roofs are steep or they're flat, and VELUX in their line of products has some variety in terms of the products that would be appropriate for some of these less than normal 4 to 7, 12 pitch roofs that we most commonly see. But there are roofs out there that are almost virtually flat, and some that are like a vertical wall. And VELUX does produce a variety of products that can accommodate a variety of different situations. So for the contractors listening and for homeowners, talk a little bit about the support that VELUX offers, that when we're not sure as the installer how we can get in touch and make sure that we're using the right product, but then also we have the right installation specs. How does VELUX support its contractors to make sure they get it right?
I would say the very first thing is we have an outstanding website that is designed not just for homeowners, but there's another section on professionals where we have training videos. You have all the installation instructions available. So they can get that at any point. All the product information is there. Then we have an excellent customer service. So you could call the 888 VELUX number, which that's where I got my start, and they're going to help you. But I'm saying if you would like to contact me, I'm happy to answer any questions. It's my job. I want to make sure that you're getting the best information, whether you're a homeowner or a contractor, and you can make the decisions on your home or your customer with clear, correct decision making.
Excellent. Well, we love it. I'm certainly a fan. We provide our customers peace of mind through offering premium materials, premium craftsmanship, and then you pile just at the absolute most professionalism and customized personal service to our customers. So that way, not only are they getting best in class products and installation, but they're also being treated like the people that they are. And it's because of folks like yourself that we're able to do that at a much higher level and continue to add more value. That's our thought anyway. We believe that we add more value, and we're willing to add more value to our customers than quite literally anyone else. So I always tell my customers, I will crawl through glass for you up and back. And then that might mean that, in a challenging sort of situation that, I'm interfacing with you to make sure that we have the right product, it's being installed the right way. So that way, when we do leave and the rain is driving and the wind is howling, you can still rest comfortably at night knowing that it was done the right way and it's going to perform when you need it the most. So massive thanks to you and the folks around VELUX. I want to just reiterate that, VELUX is more than just a fixed skylight, right? We talked about quite a few things, how these skylights, they open and close, allowing fresh air in. They have blinds that open and close, both of those functions being automation capable. So when you think of VELUX, you can't just think about just an opening in the window, in the roof that allows sunlight in. It is so much more than that. It's an experiential brand, and it is an experiential product that enhances living in the home. Is there anything that I missed in any of that?
Well, I like the word system. It's a Skylight system. It is a top quality glass, because that's the most important part of a window. It's the shade that you mentioned. It's the fresh air opening that you mentioned. And then it's the flashing kit. And overall, it's our partnership, because that's making sure that's done properly. That's the VELUX system.
Excellent. Well, we love it. So again, thanks for joining us. For those of you watching, this is, again, just another layer of how Bealing Roofing goes to bat for its customers, not only with the Platinum Preferred status, but now with the VELUX Certified Installer status. These are all promises that we make to our customers on a regular basis and to our community, that not only when you work with us do we promise to do it right the first time, stand behind it forever, and make it all affordable, but we also have the amazing representation of folks from the VELUX camp who are also making those promises as well, so that way you as the homeowner benefit and realize the max potential of your years of home ownership and really enjoy all of those years and create those memories where we all call home. It's the most important purchase you'll ever make. Why not really, really enjoy it through all of those years? So Michael, thank you so much again for making the trip up and adding value to the audience. I appreciate it. I know that this is a piece that will live on in an evergreen sort of fashion that we'll be able to draw value from. Is there anything that you wanted to leave us in closing?
I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for letting us share a little bit about Skylights and roof windows and VELUX.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for being here with us, and I look forward to doing this again. Maybe we'll come and link up with you in Rockville, or maybe do a site visit in South Carolina. And I mean, what a burden it would be if we had to go to Denmark to really see things over there, right? But I do look forward to a follow-up conversation, maybe at a VELUX destination.
We're ready.
Excellent. Thanks, Michael.
Take care.